alternates. Thank you.
Julie's waiting.
Julie's waiting. Okay, admit. So I'll wait for Julie to, there's Julie, okay. I don't know if she can hear us yet, but we do have a quorum and I'm starting the meeting now at 7:38. So welcome, introduction members and guests. Steve is here, Sylvia is here via Zoom. Chuck is out of town. And I'm still expecting Kelly, but we have a quorum, we'll start. And we start with approval of December 9th minutes. By the way, Kelly's not here to enjoy this, but when I canceled the meeting for January, it worked out that the only one who probably would be in this room would be Kelly. And that didn't sound fair at the moment. So I canceled the meeting. Though I'm gonna come back to that concept a little later on. So the first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of December 9th. Does anyone have any comments concerning the minutes?
No.
There being none, do I have motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I second it.
Look at it. Okay, so the motion has been made and seconded, and voted, I believe. Therefore, Kelly is here,
Aye.
just in time to vote on the minutes.
Hello.
Welcome, good evening. As I noted just earlier, I'll go over that one thing. The reason I canceled December was that the way it began to look is that you would be the only one here. Now, there would have been a quorum because I would have been on and Sylvia would have been on. No, there wouldn't have been a quorum. The three of us at that time would not have made a quorum. So not wanting to leave you alone,
Oh, thank you.
I canceled the meeting. So we've now approved the minutes. Now we go into the second item, which is, I note first, now Julie's on the line, and I note that Rosemary's card is here, but Rosemary called me yesterday to tell me that she had resigned both the committee and the board, effective immediately. She blamed or gave credit to a trip to Europe, saying Peter had completely, and that she decided she had enough of the board. So as a result, we have 5 members, and we're having 5 members requires only 3 for a quorum. And we have 4 because Sylvia's on. So that next item, and this will interweave itself several times during the course of our meeting. Following the, I guess, December meeting, when we lost, the resolution went down. And my complaint and concern, as it has been for years, so it wasn't this resolution, it gets me rather distressed when a resolution passes or fails based upon abstentions. I mean, you lose, but if people don't vote, that strikes me as distressing. I was accused by one unnamed board member, though she wrote it publicly, so everyone knows her name. Unnamed, that I was personally involved, and therefore I was putting my own feelings into it. And I wrote an extended letter to the board. Oh, she also accused me of saying that people didn't have the right to abstain. That was not the intent of my comments, and it was, I hope the letter clarified that item. And no one has responded to the letter. So good, bad, or indifferent, it's done. So just note for the record again, abstentions, are allowed. But I personally, and this is personal, I personally believe that someone ought to research the issue and stake out one way or the other. If you lose, you lose, but abstentions to me is painful. There was a question came up about executive sessions. And I say this to you, Julie, in mind, and that is the expression, we're going to executive session for a personnel issue, is not appropriate. This was written, this advisory opinion was written back in 1999. Don't remember his name for the moment. And then head of the Robert Freeman,
I think that's right.
Friedman.
Freeman.
Freeman.
He wrote this. And his position is, there is nothing in the law which uses the word personnel. The phrase that is used, going a little further down, was we can go into executive session to discuss the medical, financial, credit, or employment history, I'm skipping a word, of a person or corporation or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a, again, I'm skipping that word, person or corporation. Now, the issue here is, and this is what Freeman wrote, this was not in the original law, but they had it amended in 1979, had it amended to add the word particular. So you can go into executive session to discuss a particular person or corporation for any of the following reasons. And not to be specific, read them all off. But the term going into executive session on a personnel issue is not kosher. Okay, next item. I have been following the minutes of the various committees, going back to that issue with the resolution did not pass. And Julie had taken the position that she would speak personally to each of the chairs. And so we did not come back the following month. In that frozen meeting would not have made sense. I'm all together back in December. When was that frozen meeting? In December.
It was the one prior to the last one, so it would have been December.
In December. When, come on, I say to myself all the time. The vice chair,
Sergio.
got a block. When Sergio thought we were too cold to get us out of there quickly, so I'm glad we didn't bring it up the following month anyway. And so it wasn't brought up January either. But I will report to you that each of the committees have done work. Now, some I think are still being resistant, but have done work. Let's start with the Latimer Committee. They have the original going back to the 70s, 80s when I was chair and came up with that award. And we were very specific as to why someone was getting it and who qualified. Last week at the executive committee, I just asked them, I asked 2 general questions. They ought to come up with a statement of purpose. If we don't know why it's being given, then what's the point of giving it? And I've been thinking more about that. If the person receiving it has no idea why it's being given, then what's the value of the award? And I raised the issue, and apparently it's being addressed. I didn't see it in the minutes of the various committees, but, to spread not all of them in June. And apparently that's being taken to heart, and the various committees have chosen different months. So Irving Latimer, which I put down as June, maybe May, not June, because the Comeback Kid Award will be in June, and I forget which of the other months are, but it is being spread out. So as far as Irving Latimer, we never had a problem with that. The Betty Campbell Award, that's their minutes. They need a statement of purpose, because I still don't know why they're giving them. And the questions of, are you being given the award because you're a good shopkeeper? Or you're given the award because in addition to being a good shopkeeper, you have extended your efforts into the community somehow? I have no idea what those are. I would hope they come up with it so that they know what their awards are for. So I think they're moving in the right direction. Let me come back to the Veterans Award in a second. The one I didn't put down here is the Comeback Kid Award. Now, while I still have personal questions as to how you identify a kid that you were really crap, but now you're a good kid, I have a real problem with that premise. But they have, I sat in on via Zoom to their meeting last week. They have done a lot of good work. And so this, personally, I am satisfied that they have made every attempt. I only have one question, which I raised to them afterwards, after their meeting. I raised to the chair. Is, as written, this is kids who go to community centers. And there are lots of youth programs throughout the district. Why are we limiting it just to community centers? So for this year, we'll leave it alone, but I suggested that they, as they consider the next year, there are all religious organizations. I suggested a term which is no longer usable, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. There are all kinds of programs. Why are we just limiting it? And I'm sure religious organizations also have kids who have turned around and under these conditions merited. So my problem goes back to the Veterans Award. They have come up with, and I believe I sent this all out to you. This is from the minutes, item 5 on September 26th. So that's a while. So they have raised some interesting questions, and I want to raise a Robert's Rules issue in reference to this. We do it wrong. Nobody gets upset, so we continue doing it. There's no reason not to do it. No one gets upset. Well, let's take an example. We presented a resolution to the board back in November. I was challenged by Sergio. Well, if you can't get paid for your occupation, for what you're doing, then you've ruled out everyone's a veteran. And I knuckled under that, which I, in retrospect, don't think I should have done, which I'll explain. Where I knuckled. The fact is, under Robert's Rules, once a resolution is on the table, now if it comes from a committee, it doesn't need a second. If it comes from a person, it requires a second. But once it's on the table, as was our resolution, and someone suggests, I want to make an amendment, friendly or otherwise, it is not in my prerogative to accept or reject it. the resolution belongs to the body. And the body has to accept or reject, not the individual. But since it makes life go easier, I suggest we continue doing it the way we've been doing it. So if someone like, come on, like Gilman, David says, you misspelled the words, you left out a comma, you did. Technically, do we all agree to those changes?
I'm confused. Are you saying that the question of whether an amendment is friendly or not requires a board vote?
Yes. The resolution doesn't belong to me, belongs to the table, it belongs to the
I
body.
don't, I mean, I'll look into it. I think that the whole notion of friendly and unfriendly would be meaningless if it required a vote, because if it requires a vote, then you might as well simply have a vote on the amendment, which you can have when it's unfriendly. So I have to look
Then
into
maybe
it.
the maker of the motion isn't me, the maker of the motion is the committee. And you say, add X, Y, or Z, and the committee agrees,
By consensus.
which
I
they
think.
basically
Yeah,
do by silence,
right.
then that satisfies that.
Otherwise, I think there's no concept of friendly, unfriendly that makes any sense. If you have to vote on every amendment.
I
Anyway.
agree. I also don't think that we need to make a friendly amendment at all if it's just a Scrivener's error,
For
right?
sure. I agree
I
with
mean, and so we have a lot of that,
But we've done a
that
lot,
we.
I accept it, use this
That's
word
different.
instead of that
Yeah, I
word,
agree.
that has worked for us, I don't think we ought to change it. But the question here was, and this is what I've been saying for several months. Why, let's go back to why. The Veterans Award is not for military service. If it were, then the question of being salaried makes sense. The Veterans Award, I would hope, and it's not in here. The Veterans Award, I would hope, would be a person who's a veteran of any of the services as I list there. Upon returning to civilian life, has done something for the community. And we want to identify these people who are veterans, who are doing these things, not because they're veterans. Now, that's not getting through to Sergio yet. And I hope to raise this tomorrow night. Because as I've hoped, and the question I asked earlier, you want to make sure the person who receives the award is cognizant of why they're getting it. So a question of integrity and role model, that makes sense. But the phrase, where is it?
Well, under
Oh,
Roman numeral 3 clearly
Under 2.
states,
under 2, community resident award will preferably, both community residents, preferably be a member of community board aid area. I mean, why are we giving it if this person is not someone in a community board aid area?
can I just go back to the other issue, which is the issue of paid, unpaid service? Under Roman numeral 3, it says professional achievement, career success, achieving professional success while serving the military, excellence in a career, excellence in military/civilian career. I mean, the award is clearly can be tied to success while active duty. So I don't think that I mean, I personally don't believe that's what it should be. But I think the criterion should be that you were a veteran, and then after that, what you did in civilian
Yeah.
life or post-service.
How do we judge that?
But it's not about judging, that's one issue, but yes, that's right. So I think that there's still in these criteria, an attempt to characterize and judge someone's military service while in the military, which could have been 5 years ago, or it could have been 50 years ago, and that's problematic. Now, I don't know that the LRE committee is the right place to be the arbiter of whether these standards make sense or not. That's a bigger issue. I think that each committee has to work it out. And then I'm not quite sure what the right, maybe it's the chair of the board, maybe it's executive committee. I think striving for good criteria that are solid and workable, And as you said, so the person knows why they're getting the award and the board knows why they are awarding
Mhm.
the award. I think that, all of that makes perfect sense. I don't know that this committee is the committee to act as the judge of whether these criteria make sense or not. You know, I have issues with this, no question, for all the reasons that you stated. But I just don't know that we've been appointed to sit in judgment on each of these committees.
Well, our resolution was have the board sit in judgment of the criteria.
I know, agreed,
Okay,
that's like a.
so we all agree, the question is.
Marty, I don't know how to raise my hand, so could I ask a question?
Sure.
Under the military service, what is the story behind the household member of a veteran is also eligible? I don't understand that.
I think it comes from.
I mean, either it's the veterans or, I mean,
I think,
that makes no sense.
I think it comes from the commercial on TV. The toughest job in the military is being the military spouse. They say wife, spouse. So I'm not judging, but obviously you can't, you can't judge a spouse's military service as compared to a person in uniform service. I don't know where these comparisons come in. Or what right we have to
It's
make.
true, no, I mean, it's very tricky to say, including a spouse, is it a spouse who was a spouse while the person was in service? Is it a spouse who
It's current.
current and possibly was a later addition to the family unit? I don't know, it's a very problematic award.
If the military person was a POW, does that make the service of the spouse greater? I would think yes, but compared to who is another issue.
These are hard things for community board to be judging.
I agree, and all of these things make. So,
But it doesn't
That's what
even
we-
say spouse, it just has household member, so it could even be their kid. And then I just also want to say, in regards to the awardee will preferably be a member of Community Board 8 area. I do recall, well, if they're doing the service for Community Board 8, yes. Because one year we did give out an award to the auxiliary police for the Irving Latimer Award. And the auxiliary police, not all of them lived in the area, but they did something for the community board.
well, the Latimer Award, formerly known as the Community Service Award,
Right.
was service to or on behalf of the community.
Right, and
Yeah.
that's what they need to clean this up, if they're not a member of the community board area. They have to be more
Agreed.
specific. Mhm.
That gets back to the purpose of the award, so that's the problem.
Exactly.
At any point, has anyone looked at perhaps another community board, or does another community board have similar awards that they give out?
I doubt that there's another award for veterans.
It's worth looking into.
Because that may help us
It
get.
doesn't, you're not gonna find anything, it's an extinct animal.
Well, I created the first one and it exploded of late. Julie, your hand is still raised, or?
I'm sorry, let me find out how to lower it. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Don't apologize. Okay,
I would
so,
just be curious to see, how the criteria is at other community boards, if they exist. Right, I know that there are a couple of community boards in the Bronx that have veterans committees, so perhaps they may have.
I will ask Artie to, do a little research.
The only reason to limit it to the Bronx is so that it's not like an crazy research task
Right.
that will go on
Maybe
forever.
Something that,
But
Farrah could
yeah,
perhaps
we
raise
probably
at the
have
district
an email
council
group with
meeting.
the other boards that we can, you know.
Right.
Going on to the next item. last month and a half ago, Farah shared a document she received from within the group of district managers. And it listed a number of items taking place in Albany that would impact on the open meetings law. First one we're well aware of, we lobbied, Senator, Rivera, that we thought lowering the quorum to 25% was inappropriate. He wrote back, he was undeterred, he was still supporting us. And now when I read and see there's a group called Reinvent Albany, which has all of these groups as members of that group. I think this lobbying group has a stronger hold on the elected officials than do we. So, just for something for us to consider. So this is a healthy group of organizations. Some of which I've heard of and most of which I haven't, but it sounds geographically dispersed. It's all over the place, so I'm sure it has impact on the elected officials. So this item that was brought up, it was passed by the Senate, it never got to the Assembly before the session broke. It is now in committee. It hasn't begun the process really in the Assembly. But I'm pretty sure we'll be seeing this later on. Now, memo of support. This based on open meetings law, this is being supported by that group of organizations. So they want to permit video conferencing and remote participation in public meetings. We do that. There is the inference here that they're still believing in the idea of extraordinary circumstances, which we have gotten rid of. So nothing here changes. There's a lot of verbiage. Additionally, the bill reduces the burden for non-elected bodies, that's us, like community boards. This is the part I love, and this is where I could have left you all by yourself, Kelly. Requiring that only the presiding officer must attend in person at a physical location that is fully accessible to the public, rather than a quorum of members. So rather than worrying about 25%, all it takes is one person.
Wait, has the proposed legislation changed? It used to be 25% is what they were proposing.
That's one. There's another one. This one suggests that, rather than a quorum, as long as the presiding officer is present, and it says somewhere the presiding officer can give that responsibility to another person. So, for example, Kelly, you're the only one who's going to be here, you're the presiding officer. And since Sylvia will be online, maybe Chuck might be online, I'm online, we have a quorum. And any public person could come in and you'll have the pleasure of reading them under that scenario. And then there's a whole list of suggestions that they are lobbying for appointed boards and commissions or non-elected agencies and authorities. The presiding officer must be present in person or may designate an alternate member. Members may participate remotely for the circumstances provided by law. That's extraordinary circumstances. Minutes, all the rest of this follows. There's nothing new I picked up here.
Marty, do we know where these things are at right now? And if you said this before, I apologize, I was scribbling minutes. Where in the legislative process, in the new session of the legislature, do these things exist? The reason I'm asking is
I
that,
try to mark it up. I'm trying to see where I left it. I missed this one. The other ones I walked where they were. Okay, another, well, there's a recommendation. This is nowhere yet, but it's not, hadn't gone anywhere. I checked them all.
The reason I ask is that, you're right, that if it's, you're not gonna win a lobbying fight, because it's very hard to not sign on to something which seems to be in favor of disability rights, for want of a better
Mhm.
word. You don't wanna be the head of an organization that says, no, 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 we're not signing on. I think good public policy is getting lost in the shuffle here. The way to make things accessible is not to end them, but rather to make them accessible. That's easy for me to say, because I don't have an obstacle right now in terms of a disability, but I think you lose a lot. I think when people look at the way that our meetings are held, when lots of people are online, as we experienced for a few years after the pandemic, not a fully online experience, which I actually don't have a problem with, but what I call hybrid, where you have, 20, 30 people offline and 10 or 15 on, I mean, in person, the ability of people who are online to participate is reduced close to zero in any meaningful way. And important decisions are gonna get made by 5 or 10 people who show up. And I don't think that's the way it ought to be, which is why there's a quorum requirement, so you don't have a minority making of your body. And what I was wondering is, I would be willing, with anyone else who's interested, I know you are, to try to make a Zoom appointment at a minimum, rather than going up to Albany and speaking to the committee chairs who have this legislation in their bailiwick, because that's the place, I think, to apply more pressure. Once this gets to the floor, it's gonna be apple pie again. And no one wants to vote no on removing barriers to someone participating in a meeting. Because the guts, the real issues here are gonna be obscured in the yes or no, sign on or sign or not, vote yes or vote no. So I don't know if the board office can take it upon themselves to figure out where these things are at and identify the committee chairs. I'll make it a priority to try to get the meetings. And maybe our assembly person and our state senator can help us.
Well, the first thing we need to do, not tonight, between us, is identify what our positions are.
Mhm.
No reason lobbying if you don't know what your position is.
No, well, I mean, I wasn't trying to be,
No,
our
no.
position is that this current quorum requirements ought to be continued, which is more than 50% of your body or your committee. That's not, I mean, it's a fairly bright line.
All right, let's talk about it and involve Kelly when we get something substantive that we're talking about. Or Kelly can jump in earlier, if that's your choice. Or Sylvia. Require all state and local bodies currently subject to OML to provide free unrestricted remote. We do that. Which means some boards are not doing that. But bodies allow or required to take public comment. Required the public can provide real-time spoken comment. We do that. Require a quorum of members of elected body such as the state legislature to be present in person. Well, that's not the community board.
Well, Marty, we don't do B at all. We do the opposite of B for our monthly community board meetings. The public may not comment other than in gallery. This I think gets at something way more extensive. That's just from sight reading.
Well, the spectrum from community boards to the legislature is a wide gap, and they're not very
Mhm.
specific. And a minimum required the presiding officer, we discussed that already. And I've gone to public meetings where some of the committee members are present. And if you wake them up, they might have heard a word you said. But they couldn't care less. One in-person meeting location. Okay, now, that's the law, I don't know what the. I know the issue is a number of bodies have multiple places. Committee on Open Government has 3 meeting sites simultaneously. So if you wanna go to Albany or Buffalo or New York City, you can attend their meeting and the rest of it is on video. So maybe there's a quorum, but it'll be in 3 different, it'll be from 3 different places. Now, this is the part I like. F, require New York State Office of Information Technology to facilitate use of widely available low-cost applications that meet the, well, they're not providing us anything. Be nice if they provided it, but these pictures here, I call it pictures, which goes around and takes pictures of whoever is speaking. They should provide assistance and do not. New York City does not provide assistance. Must require closed captioning. I think Zoom allows for that. I don't know if anybody's doing that.
It's something that the ultimate user activates on his or her system.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Senate Bill 8793, sponsored by Fernandez. I don't know who that is. Remove in-person requirements for members of New York City. Oh, here's where I wrote status in committee in Senate. I don't know why I missed the other one. But I checked them out to where the bill was. Removing requirements for in-person attendance of public meetings by certain community boards. I don't know who certain are, but they're saying you don't need a quorum at all. I guess it goes back to the. Well, this says. Removing the requirement for in-person attendance, okay, so people can Zoom. And be counted in. If this bill goes anywhere.
Yeah.
And I gave it to you to read, employment section shall not apply to community boards. I understand why 1 million population is important in this.
It's a way of saying New York City. or something. Buffalo, Syracuse.
Vision failed bill to allow full remote community board, including board members. It failed. Oh, full remote, so nobody has to show up. This is back to the old Zoom concept. It's in committee in the Senate. Lower in-person quorum, 25% status, passed in Senate. The committee and assembly, well, it passed last year. I wrote down passed in Senate, but it has not passed this year in the Senate. Extends current hybrid allowance members in person in committee and Senate. Now,
And are these all in the same committee? I would assume so.
it sounds similar, so that could be true, but I don't know.
Well, normally it would tell you which committee when you were looking it up.
Now, I don't know why this, facade
Looks like government operations.
1525 allows members granted disability remote privilege to count toward quorum status. Quorum, that's in the law right now. I don't know what they're changing.
They're making it more specific, I guess. That's what it could be. Remember, we wrestled with this for, for months and months, so the law's not crystal clear.
Now, this is interesting. As a bill, I mean, I have attended a number of them and run by this, by COG. You go on Zoom, you sit in for a FOIL session or a open meetings law session. And they're basically repetitive unless they sneak in something that we've suddenly never heard of, like the question with ADA was not in the original law. That got snuck in. So we learned that via one of these meetings. But now they're we want to make it a requirement that every board member has to have at least 1 hour of training on FOIL and OML. And the second law coming up, is this the second one? Second one requires 2 years. 2 hours.
There's another one here that refers to 5 hours. I'm just judging by your write-up, so I don't, you know.
Okay, so that's what is currently. Well, I couldn't say currently, this is all the items that were on the memo that Farah received. And I will go back and personally decide on what our positions are for or against these, and then share it with all three of you. So that we can decide what we're lobbying for and why.
Yeah, Marty, just to take some of the burden off, because this is truly a tall order, as evidenced by your write-up. I would suggest forgetting about any bills that deal with training. They just aren't controversial, and you know, you of all the people probably in the city, you're the person who'd be least affected because you already go to them. So I would suggest we focus on the quorum as a general term issue.
Fine. Any comments on this subject?
I mean, I've already.
Okay, a quick run on the conflict of interest board. Again, I always find a lot of these to be ridiculous. A service aid, I have no idea what a service aid is, what they do. But she left before the end of her shift on 83 times, while recording that she had worked a full shift, resulting in being paid $4,048.85 for 149 hours of work she did not perform. So for the $4,885 that she earned illegally, she's paying $6,000 in fines to resolve her violations.
The moral of that story is don't get caught. Let's move on. That's not very novel.
Yeah, but
She left her own.
83 days.
But yeah,
Is it
most
practice?
people, if their employer is not as careful, could easily have done that. This is, you know, I don't know that this teaching is necessarily important for
When
us.
I ran a program for the city, and it was, I mean, I was in charge and had funding responsibilities at Central Board, but my programs were all over the city. And it was brought to my attention that one guy was getting paid per session hours and disappearing. So we did some checking on his time card and figured out how many hours he earned. And I approached him and told him he had to work X number of hours without a pay to make that up. And when these people finally heard about it, I don't know when I complained or didn't complain, they said, we're done, you solved the problem.
Wow, this was a while ago, right?
I have been working for 20 years, so. Lifetime particular matter bar, Commissioner of Landmarks Preservation. Nobody's exempt. When he was a commissioner, he was involved in decision-making concerning property neighboring the Merchant House Museum of Manhattan. Okay, when he retired, he decided to lobby on behalf or against the same thing he was against while a commissioner. And the violation here was you can't come back and take a position you took while you were working. You now have to sever yourself from the board, from the city entirely. So for this now former commissioner, but now former, wasn't as a result of what he did, he was a former commissioner. Cost him $1,000, putting his nose where it shouldn't have been. Let's see, misuse of city time. Last in 83,
That was the same one you mentioned before.
oh, the same one,
See, this shows I was paying attention.
yes, and the same landmarks commission, how'd that happen? Okay, teacher stored 3,061 documents on his DOE computer related to an outside business, mostly restaurants and jobs, as an independent contract for 2 real estate firms. I don't understand the connection of that sentence, but he ended up paying $7,000 for using, well, you're presuming he used the board's computer
Right.
while working, so. Misuse of the principal accept, this is cute. A principal accepted $200 in gifts. A pair of Nike sneakers for $125, $50 in Sephora gift card, $25 and a Starbucks gift card from 20 of her subordinates for National Principals Day. Conflict of interest law prohibits public servants from accepting gifts valued greater than $10 from their subordinates. As a result, for $200 worth of gifts, $500 worth of fine.
I think the thing that's, the moral of that story is that gifts can only flow down, not up.
Wow.
That really is the rule. She could have given all of the professionals under her or him gifts on professional assistance day or whatever. But those same people may not gift up. That's the rule.
The name Tony Alvarado mean anything to anybody?
Yes,
Yes.
former superintendent of department.
Very bright
Education.
guy. I met
Yeah.
him on a number of occasions in weird places. At any rate, Tony got burned for taking special ed kids out to Long Island to wash his car, to his lawn, to whatever.
Really?
Really, he just passed away. I read his obituary. Anyhow, I didn't do the spreadsheet yet. I will get it out. Oh, probably by the end of the week. Any old business, any new business?
Yeah. I just wanted to say, you mentioned at the beginning of the meeting that Rosemary has resigned. I just want to say that she is truly going to be missed on the board and your committee. She just contributed so much and I learned a lot from her. She will be missed.
I plan to say something, and I thank you for saying something. Rosemary will be missed. Great resource, knows where all the skeletons are buried. Skeletons, yeah, skeletons. And then any questions you had, she knew where to look for it. And, yeah, she will be missed. I'm sorry she went to Europe if that was the result.
I know she has such a wonderful time, but the new board members especially, I feel that it's going to be a loss more for them because so many of us are leaving soon and Rosemary had that knowledge and was always willing to share.
Yeah. even you didn't want, you shared, but,
That is so true, which I appreciate. Steve, you're gonna miss a nice partner in your committee.
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah, she will be missed. But she's around and, she hasn't left the earth, she only left the committee and the board. Any old or new business? Okay, our list is getting shorter. Next meeting is March 10th. All things considered. While you're there, Julie, I had hoped to come to tomorrow's meeting, but I'm afraid of the snow with the roller.
Exactly.
I haven't looked at the timing, have you?
Well, the meeting will probably start without snow,
But it
but will
I
end
see.
with snow.
I think that, they actually just shifted the model. I think it's starting here probably about the time the meeting starts.
That's what I thought.
But, yeah.
So if there's nothing else, I will accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Sylvia, you voting to adjourn?
Yes,
Okay, unanimous. And I wish you all it's coming a happy Valentine's Day
Thank you.
You too.
and
Mm.
enjoy the rest of winter. Hopefully,
Yeah,
Hopefully this is it.
we're not used to these cold winters.
That's right,
We
it's
got
been a while.
spoiled.
Yeah, exactly.
I know I'm not. Well, you guys have a good evening. Happy Valentine's to all. Take care.
Thank you.
By the way,
Take care.
Julie and Sylvia, can you hear us well during the meeting?
Very clearly.
Because this system is really, maybe it's been said before, but I just think the new system is fabulous.
You guys look like, I
Okay.
said it before, you guys look like you're in a movie. You know, it like zooms in as soon as you speak, and it's like the director says, zoom in. No, but you hear it very clearly.
And I've been on the other side, so I know that too.
Which, by the
Yeah.
way, is not true of our full board meetings, because the technology that we've got doesn't yet.
Exactly. Because we're
Yeah.
using their equipment usually. Except for the microphones. Everyone must use the microphones at the board meetings, otherwise the public cannot hear on Zoom.
But if these.
And the owls are not portable?
That's, yeah, you're just faster than.
Don't believe so. I think Farrah has them like bolted down. Isn't it like secured on the table?
No.
No.
No? Okay. She doesn't want anyone to
should.
touch them. Hope you didn't touch that, Steve.
Doesn't. Prince, DNA, you know, I can understand if they're either fragile or whatever, they're so valuable.
Mhm.
But if we find out that they can be, not these, but others. if we
Another
can,
system to buy
purchase a
them.
mobile
Mhm.
unit like that, this would be amazing. Again, we're standing right next to it.
Well, I'm still doing the discretionary fund request, so I'll put that in for one.
To not have to pass the mic, I mean, we're back in kind of daytime TV of like 40 years ago, with running around with the mic.
Exactly. Yeah.
Said also to, I mean, passing the mic is good. However, we are still in the height of germ control, as I like to
Yes.
say, and that's one of, having an apparatus like this is one of the ways to mitigate passing of
That's
germs.
good point.
Another reason for
Exactly.
Zoom. Boom. Don't touch it at all. All right. Good night, everyone, and
Okay, good night, safe home.
If I can figure out how,
You just stop.
more,
Yes.
stop, pause, stop.
Are you sure?
Yes, yes.